Hello and welcome to Spirit Tripper, the show that helps and encourages you on your journey to unlock your magic mojo. I'm Joshua Radham, your co-host. Here as always with transformational shaman and spiritual coach, Kelle Sparta. How we doing today, Kelle?
We're doing okay. I'm tired.
Yeah, I hear you.
3 in the morning, Josh. I'm tired.
It's we only got 3 of these to do, and once we get in the flow and we're doing that Celestine prophecy type of energy, and we're mixing and moving and amplifying, you'll see a whole nother side of the day at the end of this, right?
Yeah. It'll be good. It'll be fine. In the
Awesome.
meantime, I'm just gonna prop my eyes open. It'll be fine.
Oh,
So-
you're a channel anyway, right? Like, are you even?
Am I even here for most of the show? Not much. Yeah.
What's even here?
What is even here? Let's say that. Yeah. So
Which is kind of a great segue into today's topic.
Well-
the year of the snake, and how is that going for everybody?
yeah. So let's talk about grandmother snake as a totem to begin with, because she is one of my totems. And so grandmother snake is about, we often think of snake as being about the Eve and the apple, right? The evil, right? But that actually was a recreated myth. And grandmother snake is actually about healing, which you can see reflected in the caduceus in the medical world. And so snake is about healing. It's about transformation. It's about shedding your skin and walking into the new life, right? Which is particularly good because we are going through this shit right now. It is year of the snake. And if everything seems fucking hard right now, because it is, if everything seems hard, then it's because it is. And we are in the skin shedding phase. And so we're recording this on July 31st. And right now, my husband and I have been looking at each other going, oh my God. Right? We're just like, everything is 50 times harder than it has to be. Like so hard, right? So, my husband went to renew his driver's license, and then they told him that he needed to pay up he needed to change his registration because he had gotten a new passport, and therefore it was a new number, and that was tied to his registration. He couldn't renew his license until he updated that. And of course, God forbid, in the 3 years we have been here in Panama, in Boquete, that the insurance company would have moved the garaging to Boquete from Panama City, which is 8 hours away, right? No, God forbid they should have done that. But no. So now we have to hire a fixer from Panama City to go and deal with all of this. We have to send notarized documents. There's a whole shebang, and $130 to the fixer and everything else, right? So we're like, okay, fine. Got that done. We're like, okay, it'll be done. She gets a call. She's like, you guys haven't paid your registration in 3 years. And we're like, what? Because we've gone in every year to the insurance company and said, do we need to pay for registration? What's going on? And they're like, no, we covered it all. And we were like, okay. And we don't know any better, right? No, we have 3 years of back registration that's due. $250. Plus another $50 to the fixer to fix that too. And we got to send new paperwork over and. So he still doesn't have a license. So now I'm driving him everywhere because his license is expired. And we can't get it renewed until all of this crap is. This is what I'm talking about, right? I have Facebook ads I've been trying to run. Facebook would not approve my payment. Then it finally approved my payment. But then my credit card company said, no, that looks like fraud. You haven't charged anything on this card in forever. I'm like, yeah, I didn't want to charge this on this either, but they wouldn't take my debit card or my PayPal. And so I'm like, okay, fine. Yes, that's approved. And then, 3 weeks later, now suddenly I'm starting a different set of ads, and they won't approve my account for more than $5 at a time. So yesterday I got like 8 charges of $5 and $9 and $6 and whatever. And my credit card company, go figure, said, this looks like fraud, and shut it down. And, some of the ads that I got placed by somebody who professionally writes these ads, right? They got disapproved and they were all canceled. I was like, oh my God. So I'm just closing the Facebook account. I just can't, right? taken it as a spiritual eviction. But this is the thing. If you haven't heard the episode on spiritual eviction, this is what you need to know. Spiritual eviction happens when you're someplace you shouldn't be. And the amount of pain that it has been for $1 billion company to make it impossible for me to run ads. That is not the $1 billion company. That is spirit going, get the hell out of here. This is not for you. And so, you got to pay attention to these things, right? This is part of the year of the snake. Is you've got to start paying attention to the patterns. You've got to start paying attention to how the universe is directing you. And instead of fighting against it, like I have been trying to do, instead of fighting against it and going into your victim state and going into your woe is me and I will prevail warrior, whatever bullshit, right? Well, instead of going into all of that, accept what's in front of you. Accept that this is not the path for you. Might work for other people, not the path for you, right? I was trying to make it very easy for myself. I was trying to open up a new layer of ways to bring people into the work and things like that. I'm just going to ask you guys, please share this podcast because Spirit won't let me place ads. That's all I'm saying. But, this is the thing though, is you have to listen to Spirit. And you were talking about this, Josh. You're in a particularly good position to be dealing with this because Josh comes up with all the topics that when Elizabeth hasn't sent us topic, Josh comes up with the topics. And
usually 15 minutes before we start, mind you.
Yeah,
but I pay attention to what's going on in the collective, and for this particular topic, it was so funny because I was just at my family reunion. It's like 7 people with skin issues going on, like they're actually shedding, and they got and I'm like, okay, yeah. I was like, this is a message. And it's funny because I owned a snake a couple years ago, and having worked with snake for a while, I noticed, it was very symbolic when I was going through a rough transition with things. The snake would have a rough shed, and for what it's worth, because I'm on walkabout and because I'm working in the feminine and because I finally just said, fuck it, I surrender. Things have been pretty good. Certain things aren't moving, but they're moving, right? They're moving. It's just being in the flow. To me, that, when I went through the Kundalini experience last year, it was all about snake, right? It was snake uncoiling, coming up, and me not forcing it anymore and just, finding an easier way. And that easier way is, it's kind of like what you teach in the manifestation, it's just becoming the motivation and the motivation and the destination, right?
Yeah.
So,
and letting go of the how, right? So bad. I wanted to run ad. Damn it. Yeah. I feel you. I do. But that is ultimately the goal of Walkabout. The goal of Walkabout is to learn how to surrender and be with what is.
It's actually been pretty amazing. It's been challenging me to a new level of awakening. And we were talking about this early in this week, in the beginning of the work, we really do a lot of intention-based work. And I was like, I don't know what's going on, but intention-based work isn't it. And right now, and then Spirit was like, oh, that's because this is what you asked for. I was like, well, not in so many words, but they're like, you asked for it before you got here. And since then I've really just lightened up, I think one of my favorite quotes of the year is the key to enlightenment is just lightening the fuck up. It's just this is what it is. I'm in the experience, right? And it's been really cool since I did that, I'm currently, broadcasting from Sacred Curiosities Holistic Wellness Center in Menominee, Michigan. I got back from Walkabout a week and a half ago, and now I'm in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan again, just hanging out and, in stone circles with other shamans and surrounded by, just a whole community of people, which is exactly what Spirit's been trying to push me in and out of hermit state for most of this. Yeah.
Well, and that is sort of the nature of Walkabout. Okay. So Walkabout happens in stage 5. So if you guys have my book, The Overachiever's Guide to Spiritual Awakening, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you've watched the webinar that is available, if you join the Spirit Sherpa Facebook group, you'll get a link to the webinar that talks about the stages of spiritual development and where you can identify where you are and things like that. But the stage 5 is where walkabout typically happens. If you're going to go on walkabout, that's where it happens. You don't have to go on walkabout to be in stage 5, but that is where it happens. And stage 5 is all about surrender. It's all about letting go and allowing the universe to direct you, right? It's like, we are control freaks, babies. That's what we do. Okay.
Scorpios and surrender, perfectionists and
God.
surrender.
Yeah.
Empaths and surrender.
Yeah. And so, and I'm going to take a page from Elizabeth's book. She's like, please don't label me. I'm like, okay. So some of us are control freaks.
Yes, some of us are.
Some of us are super ass control freaks, right? And we got a plan and a backup plan and a backup plan for our backup plan. And, it's we get more done in a day than most people get done in a week and all the things, right? Perfectionism is high, right? So, learning how to let go of the how and the what and the, everything and just go where you're freaking told. Well, we suck at that. Oh my God. I spent 5 years telling my guys to go fuck themselves when they were telling me to do something. So going on walkabout and just doing what I was told was huge for me. I won't say it was difficult because it oddly wasn't for me. It was, I was just like, just take me where you want me to go. And I was so freaking tired. It just did not matter. I was like, I'm exhausted. I can't. I'm just going to lay here for a month. And then what? Oh, yeah. You want me to? Okay, fine. I was just, they broke me down so hard that I just had no choice but to surrender. Right.
And that's been the hardest part for me from like the entrepreneurial standpoint, right? Like meshing these two worlds. I'm like last year was all about creating these beautiful things, right? And then, like this year was about putting them out. And then Spirit's like, oh, those are some beautiful things, but we're going to teach you to embody the teachings a little bit more on a deeper level. And I began to see it, like as a lesson, right? Like I started to see the lesson that like, for me personally, not to project my lessons onto other people, but I teach people about absolute faith and absolute trust in the universe. And the universe is always like, how much do you trust? I was like, I trust enough. There's no need to test it. I was like very, very deep in the trust. They're like, good, test it. So, but like the way that, money has came in hasn't been the way I thought it was going to come in, and it's been through trusting and the kindness of strangers. And it's been through, just opening my heart to receive, not just from the universe, but from the pure people that the universe sent, which, at stage 5, sometimes I felt like I went back to stage fucking 1. Because I was like, everybody's after me. And then like I went back into that victim a little bit at the beginning of this, but it's, if there's anything I can say about the year of the snake, the one way through is you surrendered to the shit that is changing in your life and that no longer serves you. Cause you already know what's knocking on your door. If you're, if you're listening to this podcast, things have been hard. You already know. Every time, I'm sure you say it too, like when we get on calls with people, generally when I'm doing readings or coaching with people, I don't tell them shit they already don't know. We're just digging it up and bringing it out of the subconscious into the conscious, but it's already been there flirting around.
Yeah. Well, and so the year of the snake is about letting go of your old identity. So Kathy recently came up with this idea, and I can't remember if we mentioned on the podcast or not, but Kathy recently came up with this idea that instead of an ego death, it is literally that you're dissolving the container that your ego used to live in. And what was so fascinating for me is that I had a dream 2 nights ago that I was in a prison with Bear. Bear's another one of my totems that I'm working with right now. And I was in this prison and I was trying to get out. And I initially was like, let me out or I will send the bear to break the door down. Right. And I got the message back. I'm like, you could leave anytime. This is your prison. You made it. You walk out when you want to. And I kept trying to leave and I kept getting distracted. And I kept trying to leave and I kept getting distracted. And I finally was like, screw it, I'm going. And then my husband came in and woke me up. Okay. And I was like, not now. And I went out of the prison, And as Bear and I exited the prison, the walls of the prison just dissolved and they just they turned to dust and blew away, right? And Kathy, I told her the story the next morning, and she's like, "Oh, you successfully removed the ego container." She's like, "Congratulations. I know you've been working on this for a while." And I'm like, "Yes, that's exactly what that dream was," right? Um, and things happen, right? So one of the things in constellation work that happens um, is this idea that your parents, your lineage, your ancestors line up behind you, and through that lineup, they send you this energy of thriving and the intent that you do well, right? The goal of any parent is that you should do better than them. And so this idea that your parents line up behind you, your ancestors line up behind you, and you are willing to receive that energy, which I was not for many, many years. 20 years ago, I did a ritual with an event and I had to go around it because it was an ancestor ritual. And we were doing Valhalla, entering Valhalla for the warriors, right?
Of course
Yes,
you
and
were.
I was holding Valhalla. That was my job as part of the ritual team. And I was very transparent with the ritual team that I had only just started working with my ancestors. My ancestors were, some of them were very terrible people. And that I was not doing well at accepting them and being able to receive from them. And, so we had to adjust for me to get to Valhalla and do work. But, I got Valhalla and that was great. But, I've been working on this off and on for 20 years, right? 23 years at this point. 22. Yeah, 22 years. And so, spontaneously, while watching an episode of Star Trek Discovery, uh, where they were talking about Michael Burnham's parents and being proud and things like that, I saw her parents stand up behind her. And then my parents came up and stood behind me. And I was like, oh, finally. Finally, right? So sometimes, things take longer than others. And, it is what it is. And so the thing that you have to recognize about working with Grandmother Snake is that the skin sheds when the skin is ready. But we can also cling to that freaking skin if we're not careful.
I think that Eckhart Tolle, line that came to me at the beginning of Walkabout is, um, the suffering only lasts as long as your attachment to your former self.
Yeah.
Huh?
That's
And
exactly
that, I mean, great old Eckhart, man. Like he just he sums it up in that deadpan approach, and I'm like, that's absolutely. I remember at the beginning, I was like, great, go gadget, not attached to former self, and
yeah.
it didn't work. He just so I have been burning in the fires of transformation for the beginning of this year and purify. It's been amazing, right? Like I look back and I remember through all of it. I'm like, I know this sucks. This is hitting all of my core wounds, but I know that this is what's meant to be. Like there was nothing that shook my faith in the middle of it. I think I only cursed out the creator once and then I apologized, but I needed to do it to cry. I think we all go through that at some point on the.
Oh, funny.
Like, is this what it takes to initiate to the higher levels? And then, like, I don't understand. And I was just a poor young boy. And why would I have to go through all these things? And I had to be the victim to be like, okay, that's ridiculous. Now, I witnessed it and now I can move through it. And I'm like, I take back what I said. I understand, and I understand it as divine love through external lessons showing up. So, but we got to pout sometimes. We got to pout for that child that didn't get the opportunity to pout.
Well, and the victim for you is actually part of your journey, right?
Yeah.
Engaging that victim, because that's been part of the priority thing for you. Mine was not welcome, not wanted, not good enough, or not important rather. And yours is the victim. And so, we each had different journeys. For me, it was being dragged back to the same people months after I'd been there with them before, and having the history of my childhood, leaving helms of my mom saying not to look back, and me subconsciously interpreting that as, oh, they're going to figure out I was a bad person once I left, and me having to go back and having people be surprised and happy to see me. I was like, you're happy to see me? Really? It was that moment of, oh, really? Fuck. That's the not welcome, not wanted piece, right? Those were being unwound for me. And so, whatever your core wounds are is what happens to show up when you're going through this stage 5 surrender work. Because, the universe is like, okay, so you've been trying to direct this journey for a while now. We're going to take over. And we're
it's
all the things it's
so
avoiding.
It's so funny because you recommended, in Woo You, Existential Kink.
Yeah.
And like the first page, I don't know, in the first chapter, it was like talking about, like a 40-year-old guy living in his parents' basement. And I had just got back from walkabout and I was staying in, one of my rooms in my parents' house. And I was like, okay, what about me wants to experience this? Because I have to take radical responsibility for this. Like,
Mhm.
and it was beautiful. My parents divorced and, like got back together a couple times, which really, sunk some deep, like, oh, that one threaded it pretty good. But I never got to see it as this is what the little me always dreamed of. And it came to fruition. I never had the perspective on it. So now I don't have to be in it to witness it. I've witnessed it and experienced it, and now I can move forward. But I kept getting drawn back to stay with them for periods of time because the young me wanted to witness them in a good space.
Nah. Yep.
And that book, I was like, oh, how sexy, you hot little creator. You've once again upended your complete life so you could go experience what you didn't experience as a child. Oh, how is that, right? And really,
Yeah. So
that's my experience with Existential King so far.
yeah.
What I've been
So
using
that
it
book
for.
is Existential Kink by Carolyn Elliott.
Yes.
And so, if you want to just pick it up, it will rock your world. So, um, when we're going through this, our biggest issues show up, right? That's just the nature of this level of work. So this is stage 5 work, right?
Would you say that this year of the snake kind of amplifies that with most people in the
Yeah.
awakening? Oh, yeah.
What?
I'm looking at all the people in my family with the skin issues. I'm like, I've been working with them in little ways. You know how as shamans we kind of plant seeds. I'm like, oh, I see where you want to go, but I don't want to overly give. But I'm like, if you do this, this will probably help with that.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing in a lot of people right now that they're up leveling.
Well, and the year of the snake is basically the tarot card, the death tarot card, right? I mean, that's what the year of the snake is death. It's transformation. It's shedding your skin. It's letting go. It's healing, right? The death card is not about dying. It's about your ego dying. It's about things coming to an end. It's about, things ending so other things can begin, right? It's about destruction and, well, not exactly destruction because that's a tower card, but still. But it does mark endings. And the year of the snake, it doesn't have to be an ending on the outside, but it generally is an ending on the inside, right?
I've been aware of that, like for me, like doing this work with you on the deeper levels now, getting into like subconscious patterns.
Mm.
Um, that has changed a lot because I recognized myself just sitting in circle yesterday, that a lot of the thoughts that used to come aren't there anymore. And I was like, oh, this is a great awareness of the growth. Because usually usually it happens, how it kind of ticks away, right? And then I realized that I've been in circles like this over the last few years, but there was always these underlying feelings of judgment and just like still a lot of those voices. But I was like, I've shed those, like
Yeah.
they're not there. I'm just like seriously enjoying people and, not thinking about how I can lead them to the better selves or any of that. I'm just like, I am enjoying the experience of you for exactly who you are. And that makes me feel amazing.
Yeah. Well, and that's the weird thing about doing this work is that there will come times in your life where you're expecting certain thoughts and certain feelings to show up and they don't. And you're like, And am I not in touch with my feelings? Am I lying to myself? Am I, and you go looking for them and they're just not there. And you're like, but they always come. No. Okay. So that's the moment where you notice, oh, I guess that's growth. Right.
It's just froze.
So yeah, that's always entertaining. So the short answer is what we're saying, right? All of this is going to say, if your year of the snake has been challenged, and this is going to be coming out in like late September. So, by the way, hi, Jeff and I will be in Colombia on our honeymoon, our second. We're renewing our vows for our 10-year anniversary, and so we will be in Colombia doing that in Medellin. And so when this comes out, we're gonna be like, "Hey, how you doing?" But if it's late September when you're hearing this, and so if you are still struggling, you haven't let go yet. Okay, and that's if you want to not continue to struggle for the next 3 months, you need to freaking let go, right? Let go and let your guides tell you where to go, right? Because the more we try to control, the more we try to understand, the more we try to anticipate and plan for that which we are not supposed to know, the more pain we create for ourselves, the more attachment to our old ego selves we hold on to, and the more misery we create for ourselves. So, like, I could continue to sit here and fight with Facebook over these stupid ads, or I could just turn them off and move on and accept that the universe is saying, no, not for you. And I'm like, I freaking hate Meta anyway, so I'm okay with that, right? So, but yeah, and unfortunately, after I say this, the Facebook group is the group for Spirit Sherpa is on the Facebook group. It's on Facebook. So, but that's how you get the webinar. I couldn't remember if I said it was a Facebook group when I said it. So, it is on Facebook. Anyway, but you got to let it go. You do. You just have to let it go. And just be with what is, be with what shows up in front of you. And this is especially true if you're one of the 70% of people who are a generator in human design. Kathy and I are both generators. Do you know what your human design is, Josh?
Manifesting generator.
Oh, you're lucky. You actually get to do shit. We don't get to do anything.
What more are you talking about? Like, I know you two. Like, what do you mean you don't get to do shit? That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Generators are supposed to be in response. And so the Wu Yu Psychic Mastery Program, that powerhouse that has been created was actually Alyssa's idea. That was Alyssa came back to us and said, I want to go through this again, but I want this. And I went and built it for her. And so you can say thank you to her because that's why it was built.
I do say thank you to her all the time.
I followed my generator response and I went, okay, and I made it. And so this is and this is what happens, guys. I work with very small groups of people. And so, when I have a long-term student who says, I want this, I'm like, okay, and I build it for you, you've experienced that, Josh.
I have. I mean, like, I actually I can't express how ridiculous it is how quickly she builds it too. I mean, look, if you saw the depth of the things that she's building, I mean, I don't know, our Wu Yu and Psychic Mastery group right now is just having some fantastic breakthroughs, one after another. And, working with those two things hand in hand, but just the program that you're talking about, it's been just beautiful to be a part of and to witness and to experience. I guess, like it's really the experience part of the work. But so it's really special that you put that one together, all of them really, but.
Yeah, you guys are rocking and rolling. I have been really, really pleasantly surprised with what's been going on with you guys. So, and to the point where we actually, Kathy and I discussed it, and when we started, we made these groups the same size as the other groups, which is no more than 15 people. And this group is so active, with just 5 people in it right now, that I'm like, okay, we're gonna max this out at 8. We're not gonna put more than 8 people in a group just because the amount of activity is so high. You guys are posting almost every day, right? And so there's like this constant flow of excitement and, woohoo stuff. So yeah, it's like that.
Two
So
shamans, no hiding.
two shamans, no hiding. Exactly. Yes. Well, and we used to run retreats like that, Kathy and I. We used to just have a weekend retreat where you came out, you brought your stuff, and we just worked with it. And it was awesome. When she gets down here, I'm sure we'll probably do some of those again. But the upshot though is coming back to the topic is snake is all about letting go. It's about shedding that former skin. It's about healing yourself from the inside, right? And coming forth out of that shell as a brand new you sort of thing, right? And that requires letting go. That requires surrender. And surrender is, in case you missed it, surrender is not giving up. Surrender is allowing in faith. It's just saying, I trust you. Take me where you want to take me. It is inherently a trust-based experience. And so that's really the key that you have to get into is trust the universe, trust your guides, allow them to direct you, follow the signs that they're sending you, and see where it takes you. Do not plan. Do not anticipate. Do not control. That is the pathway. So if you're still struggling, this is your reminder to just let go. So with that, I think we're going to call this one complete. So remember to like, subscribe, and share. And also remember that what you focus on is what expands. What you intend is what you create. So choose wisely.